A new girl arrives at a prestigious military school. She's quiet, reserved, an easy target, or so the bullies think. They corner her, mock her, push her around, never realizing the truth. She isn't just another transfer student. She's the newly appointed base commander, inspecting her own base undercover. And when her true identity is revealed, everything changes. Before we begin, let me know in the comments. I genuinely love seeing this community come together from all over the world. And if you enjoy emotionally powerful, cinematic stories like this one, please subscribe. It helps more than you know. Now settle in, because this story begins with a moment no one on that base would ever forget. The first shove came hard enough to rattle her spine. It happened so quickly, so unexpectedly, that the small cluster of students behind the barracks didn't have time to hide their gasps. The new girl staggered, boots scraping against gravel, her balance nearly giving out. A backpack slid off her shoulder and spilled open, scattering binders, a metal water flask, and a folded jacket she'd been carrying for the early morning chill. "Pick it up," sneered Cadet Masterson, the tallest among the trio circling her. "Newbies clean up after the upperclassmen. That's the rule around here." The girl didn't respond. Her face remained unreadable, calm, almost strangely composed for someone being pushed around behind the training facility on her first day. Masterson didn't like the silence. People like him rarely did. He stepped closer, trying to tower over her. "You deaf or something?" I said. But she was already kneeling, gathering her things with deliberate, unhurried movements. Not submissive, not fearful, just steady. The air around her felt different, charged with something none of the cadets could name. Masterson's irritation deepened. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." Again nothing. And for the briefest moment, just a flicker. Something shifted in the air, a sensation like a held breath, a restraint, a power choosing not to reveal itself. No one recognized it yet. Not the bullies. Not the bystanders who pretended not to see. Not even the few kinder students who watched from afar with uneasy concern. No one knew who she was. Not yet. But they were about to learn that they had just pushed the wrong person. Because the new girl they were attempting to bully was actually Commander Elise Kalin, the newly appointed base commander of Falcon Ridge Military Academy. One of the youngest and most brilliant officers ever to hold the position. And she wasn't here as a student. She was here undercover, evaluating them, testing them, observing every choice they made, especially this one. From a distance, she looked like any other newcomer, late teens, dark hair tied back in a simple knot, uniform too plain to draw attention. But up close, if any of them had looked past their arrogance, they might have seen what others had noticed her entire life. The controlled grace of someone who had been trained not merely to defend but to lead. The faint shadows beneath her eyes, signs of sleepless nights spent writing strategies for rescue ops, not cramming for exams. The scar under her collarbone, just visible when the neck of her shirt shifted. A reminder of a day she never spoke about, when she carried someone out of a burning vehicle, smoke thick enough to choke on, blood soaking her sleeves. She was a soldier long before she was a commander. She was a leader long before she ever held rank. And she had lost more than any of these students could imagine. But none of them knew. Not yet. Not on this cold morning behind the barracks when they decided to test her silence. Elise Kalin had grown up in a world shaped by uniforms and discipline. Her earliest memories were of crisp mornings on her father's base, the metallic scent of oil and steel from the aircraft hangars, and the rhythmic cadence of drills echoing across the compound. She had loved it all. The structure, the purpose, the quiet pride her parents carried. But her path had been shaped by tragedy long before glory ever touched her shoulders. When she was 16, her older brother, her hero, her compass, her unshakable friend, died in an overseas rescue mission. The news arrived with the weight of a falling world. Her mother collapsed into her father's arms. Elise had stood still, as if the universe had forgotten to keep spinning. Her brother's last letter to her had arrived a week later, sealed in dust-stained paper. Inside, he'd written one sentence she carved into her heart. Led with quiet strength, Liz. Noise fades. Integrity doesn't. The words followed her through every hardship. In officer school, in the grueling special operations training, in every impossible decision she faced in the field. She carried them when she evacuated 37 civilians during a flood in the southern provinces. when she stabilized a wounded lieutenant on the back of a moving transport, when she stood beside the families of the fallen. Quiet strength. It became her identity. It became her armor. It became her silence. And now, as she knelt to gather her scattered belongings, while being mocked by teenagers, her silence remained intact, not from fear, but from discipline, from power, from choice. Around the corner, a group of students hurried past, pretending not to hear the harsh laughter. They weren't bad kids, not really. But the academy had a long, shameful tradition hierarchy disguised as discipline. Newcomers were expected to earn their place, which too often meant enduring the cruelty of those drunk on authority they hadn't yet earned. Some students slowed as if considering stepping in, but then turned away. No one wanted to become the next target. Silent complicity. It was a disease that spread quickly in systems like these. Elise noticed every face that turned away, every cowardly retreat, every bite of lip and downward glance. She judged none of them, but she remembered all of them. Masterson's frustration grew with each moment of her calm composure. Bullies often crumbled when confronted with silence, but he mistook her restraint for weakness. Another cadet, Vance, stepped behind her and kicked her spilled jacket farther across the gravel. "Come on, new girl. You gonna cry or what? We've had tougher recruits than you break down their first hour." Still nothing. She finished collecting the last of her things and gently closed her backpack. Her knuckles remained steady, her breathing even. Her eyes lifted only briefly, landing on each of them, then resting on the sky for a moment as though she were measuring something far beyond them. She stood, and in the pit of the bully's stomach, just for a heartbeat, Vance felt something he did not understand. A warning. But arrogance is often louder than intuition. Masterson smirked and leaned forward. "Let's show her how we treat deadweight." Before he could move, a quiet voice called from behind them. "Is there a problem here?" Cadet Mara Riston, one of the Academy's top scholars and the nearest thing Falconridge had to a moral compass, had stepped into view. Small-framed, but sharp-eyed, with a calm presence Elise noticed instantly. Masterson shot back, "Riston, mind your own business." "I am," she replied evenly. "You're in my sector." Masterson's jaw clenched. But even he knew that Mara Riston's record made her too respected to openly challenge. Still, Elise didn't look at Mara or at the bullies. Her focus remained internal. Her silence remained unbroken. And then, deliberately, intentionally, she brushed past Masterson and walked away. It was not retreat, it was dismissal. A choice that left Masterson seething. Behind her, she heard him spit out, "She'll regret that." No, she thought. Not today. But they might. Inside the administration building, the base's senior officers were preparing for a confidential briefing. They stood around a long table, documents sealed, laptops locked, awaiting the arrival of someone important. Someone none of the cadets had met. Someone who would determine the future of Falconridge Academy. "Commander Kalin should be here soon," one officer murmured, adjusting the stack of personnel evaluation files. Another replied, "The cadets have no idea the new base commander is arriving today," or that she requested to observe them in training before the formal introduction. A secret, a test, a revelation on the horizon. And at that exact moment Elise Kalin, still dusting gravel from her sleeves, walked across the quad, blending into the tide of students heading toward the next scheduled drill. No one recognized her. No one except a few senior officers who caught glimpses of her through windows and promptly stood at attention. But she offered them only a subtle shake of her head. Not yet. The time would come. She wanted to see the academy in its raw truth. Whether its future leaders respected strength only when it wore visible rank. The field marathon was mandatory for all new recruits. 20 laps around the training perimeter under the late morning sun. Cadets lined up, some stretching, some groaning, some mentally bracing themselves. Elise arrived with quiet steps and took her place at the far left of the starting line. Masterson stood only a few positions away, already watching her with the hunger of someone who wanted revenge for losing control earlier. His friends flanked him. As the drill sergeant began the countdown, Elise's posture remained relaxed, almost meditative. She wasn't here to show off. She wasn't here to dominate a race. But she wasn't here to lose either. When the whistle pierced the air, the cadets surged forward in a thundering wave of boots. Masterson started strong, sprinting ahead to establish dominance. Vance and the third bully Kerrigan followed closely. Elise maintained a steady pace, her breathing synchronized, her gaze calm. She passed the one lap mark in the middle of the pack, unnoticed. But soon the field began to shift. Cadets started slowing, their breaths turning ragged under the rising sun. Sweat-soaked uniforms, muscles burned, and Elise calm, collected, seemed untouched by fatigue. By lap 7, she had quietly moved into the front third. By lap 10, she was among the leaders. By lap 14, she was in second place. Masterson wasn't happy. "Stay behind," he hissed through clenched teeth as she approached. "Don't think you're proving anything." But she continued forward. His competitive pride snapped. He stepped into her path, forcing her to swerve. The move was reckless, against academy rules, and dangerous. The cadets watching sucked in sharp breaths. But Elise flowed around him, unshaken. Masterson tried again, elbowing closer, attempting to trip her stride. Again, she glided out of reach. And without ever increasing her speed, she passed him. "Who the hell are you?" he spat. She didn't answer. She simply ran. And something primal, something uneasy, began to twist inside the bully's chest. By the final lap, the field had spread wide. Only 5 cadets remained within reach of finishing with strong times. Elise was one of them. As she rounded the last corner, sweat shimmering against her temples, her eyes landed on something far ahead. 4 senior officers standing by the finish line, watching her, waiting, and one of them, a tall woman with silver threading through her dark hair, nodded once in acknowledgement. Recognition. Respect. Approval. Masterson noticed the officers too. It fueled his desperate anger. He sprinted with everything he had left, barreling toward Elise's shoulder. But Elise subtly shifted, timing her breath, adjusting her stance, anticipating the impact before it happened. Masterson stumbled. His momentum carried him forward, nearly making him fall. In that split instant, Elise could have let him hit the dirt, could have let the academy see his defeat. Instead, quietly, instinctively, she caught him by the forearm and steadied him. He jerked away as though burned. "Don't touch me." He crossed the finish line seconds later, panting, humiliated, furious. Elise finished behind him, but the officers didn't look at Masterson. Their unwavering focus remained on her. By midday, whispers swarmed the academy corridors. "Have you seen the new girl run?" She didn't even look tired. She took the shove earlier and didn't say a word. "I heard she trained outside the country." "No. I think she's some general's kid." Theories spiraled. Curiosity thickened. Even the bullies felt the shift. Something about her didn't add up, and their confidence began to crack. Yet Elise continued her day as though she were invisible. She ate alone in the mess hall. She studied the training manual. She attended drills with quiet attentiveness. Her silence didn't make her small, it made her unfathomable. And unfathomable things were dangerous to insecure egos. It happened in the late afternoon, outside the equipment vault. Elise was returning a training kit when Masterson intercepted her, flanked by Vance and Kerrigan. Their arrogance was gone, replaced with something sharper, more desperate. "You think you're better than us?" Vance snapped. Elise didn't respond. "You think you can just show up and embarrass us in front of the officers?" Kerrigan added. Still no response. The silence only fueled their resentment. Masterson stepped closer, close enough that Elise could smell the bitterness rolling off him. "Say something." She didn't. Instead, deep, steady, unflinching. And for the first time he saw a glimpse of something beneath the quiet. Authority. Not assumed. Not postured. Real. It rattled him. He pushed her shoulder. "I said, Cadet Masterson." The voice came like a blade of ice. Everyone turned. Standing at the end of the corridor were the senior officers from earlier, accompanied by the commandant himself. And in the commandant's hands was a folder. Thick, sealed, marked with the emblem of Falconridge Command. "Step away from her," the commandant ordered. Masterson froze. The commandant turned to Elise, and every cadet watched as the hardened officer, known for his unforgiving discipline, straightened with visible respect. "Commander Kalin," he said, "your cover assignment is complete if you wish it to be. The assembled staff are awaiting your formal introduction." Silence. Then, Masterson's face drained of all color. Kerrigan forgot how to breathe. Vance's knees buckled. Elise exhaled softly. "Thank you, sir," she answered. Her first spoken words all day. Every cadet felt the weight of them. The commandant stepped aside, allowing her to walk forward. But before she left the corridor, Elise paused beside the bullies who had tormented her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't scold. She didn't humiliate. She simply said, "Honor isn't something you demand, it's something others choose to give you." Then she walked away, leaving the hallway in stunned silence. The auditorium filled within minutes. Students whispered feverishly, the rumor spreading like wildfire. "A commander. Here, undercover." When Elise stepped onto the stage wearing her official uniform, the transformation was breathtaking. The modest clothing she wore earlier had concealed the full display of her rank, medals earned through blood, strategy badges awarded for exemplary field operations, and the insignia marking her as Falcon Ridge's new base commander. The students rose instinctively, not out of rule, but awe. She surveyed the room. She saw the fear, the shame, the curiosity, but also the potential. She began speaking in a voice calm but commanding. "Some of you," she said, letting her gaze move across the rows, "believe strength is measured by who stands beneath you. But true strength is measured by who you lift." A hush washed over the auditorium. She continued, "This academy trains future officers, leaders, protectors, and leaders do not prey on the vulnerable. Leaders do not bully to feel tall. Leaders stand where others are afraid to." Her eyes landed briefly on Masterson. He lowered his gaze. Then she delivered the line that would be repeated on every military forum, every leadership seminar, every cadet's locker door for years. "The silence you misread as weakness was simply the discipline of someone who had nothing to prove to you." A shiver passed through the hall. She spoke of integrity, of quiet resilience, of the importance of character when no one is watching. She told them of the lives lost to arrogance in the field, of missions compromised by ego, of comrades who never made it home because someone underestimated the weight of responsibility. Her final words brought many to tears. "Respect is not a courtesy reserved for rank. It is the foundation of honor. Give it freely, and you will receive it tenfold." When she finished, the entire auditorium stood. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. For Elise Kylan. For the commander who chose silence over ego. For the leader who showed them what real authority looked like. Masterson approached her after the assembly, shaking, eyes glossed with shame. He didn't try to justify himself. He didn't blame anyone else. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Elise studied him quietly. "Be better," she answered. "That's all any of us can do." Those 4 words would become the turning point of his life. In the months that followed, Falcon Ridge changed. Cadets who once sneered now stood taller, not out of pride, but from the understanding that their actions mattered. Bystanders became defenders. Silence became solidarity, not complicity. And Commander Elise Kylan became a legend not for the medals she wore, but for the lesson she taught. True power is silent. True strength is kind. True leadership lifts, not crushes. If this story moved you, let me know where you're watching from today. And tell me, what was the most powerful moment for you? If you enjoyed this cinematic story, please subscribe for more emotionally rich tales that honor dignity, courage, and the quiet heroes we often overlook. Until next time, lead with quiet strength.